What is up, guys? Stark here. In today's video I will be doing a character spotlight that is long overdue, and that is going to be Saint Martha. So it's taken me like a year and a half, 2 years to make this character spotlight, and that's primarily just because she's a summer character, and once last year's summer events ended and I didn't do it, I was just like, well, I'll just do it next year. But now these summer events have ended, and I'm not trying to wait another year to do these character spotlights, so I'm going to try and get her and all of the other summer characters out of the way before, too long, and then I can move on to actual new characters. Saint Martha is going to change from a rider to a ruler, and she's also going to change from a defensive-oriented servant to an offensive-oriented servant. So that's a little bit of a cool change of pace. She will have 11,250 HP and 9,546 attack, ranking her 99th overall in HP and 74th overall in attack. For her star absorption, it'll be 102, her star generation is 10%, and her noble phantasm generation on her attacks will be 0.76, and on defense it will be 3%. So as I said, Martha is more of a damage dealer than a support character in this iteration of herself, and that's pretty cool. She is a ruler as well, which is unique, so there's not that many rulers, so if you do have her, that's going to be a huge advantage, or disadvantage, I guess, because she's a ruler, so she doesn't really get any class advantages. So that extra bit of damage she would want to deal, she can't deal because she is a ruler, although at the same time she'll take less damage, so she'll be able to stay alive longer. So it's a bit of a trade-off, but I think for her, it would make more sense if this version was the rider and the other one was the ruler. I guess, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Her first skill is going to be Saint of the Shore B+, which will charge her own Noble Phantasm gauge, as well as increasing her own attack on waterside and beach fields for 3 turns. So the first part of the skill is really good. Getting a 30% increase to your gauge on a 6-turn charge time isn't really bad at all. However, the second bit isn't really that helpful. You have to make sure you're bringing her into waterside and beach fields, otherwise she's not going to get any sort of buff to her attack. So that automatically just completely limits what she can be used for, which is kind of a disappointment, really. But it is what it is, so make sure you're on those fields if you do want to use her. Her second skill is going to be the Natural Body CA, which will grant herself debuff immunity for 1 time, as well as recovering her own HP. So she'll heal herself 3,000 HP on a 5-turn charge time, so this is going to be really cool in keeping her alive, being able to buff up that HP. A pretty solid amount on a 5-turn charge time is going to be very helpful, as well as getting that debuff immunity for 1 time. Now this doesn't have a turn cooldown, so you can just leave that there, and anytime she would get hit with a debuff, she'll just be immune to it, and then odds are you'll be able to use the skill again and get that debuff immunity again. So overall, a pretty solid defensive skill. However, this is very selfish in the fact that it is for her and only her. And then third and finally, she has the Limbs of Jacob B, which will increase her attack against demon enemies, divine enemies, and undead enemies for 1 turn. And this will give her 100% increase to damage against those on a 5-turn charge time. So if you're going up against any of those characters, then she's going to do a tremendous amount of damage. However, at the same time, much like her first skill, she's very limited in the fact that she has to be going up against a demon, divine, or undead enemy, as well as being on a water or beach field. So she's very limited in where she can shine, but if those criteria are met, she's going to be doing some pretty good damage. And it's not like those categories aren't really like plentiful. Like there's a lot of characters in these little categories, so you're going to be able to do a lot of damage. But if you maximize it by having her third skill and her first skill in like a perfect setup, then she'll be just dishing out tons of damage, really. And then for her passives, she has 1 passive, and that's going to be the Magic Resistance EX, which will increase her debuff resistance by 17.5%. So overall, now let's go ahead and take a look at her skills in general and give it a ranking. Honestly, she does some pretty cool things with her skills, but they're really criteria based, and there's a chance you could actually end up taking Martha into a fight and not being able to make use of her first skill or her third skill, which only leaves you with her, immunity and heal as her second skill, and that alone it doesn't make for a good character, in my opinion. Obviously, you're not going to take her into those situations, you're going to use her in the situation she can excel at, but the fact that she is very limited in where she can actually fight just means I can't give her too many points for her skills. So she's only going to get 3.5 stars for her skills, and I feel like that's probably being really generous. So now let's go ahead and take a look at her command card deck and her Noble Phantasm. For her command card deck, she has 1 quick, 1 arts, 3 busters, and the hit counts are going to be 4 on the quick, 3 on the arts, 1 on the busters, and 5 on her extra attack. So she does have 3 buster cards, so she could do Buster Brave Chains, which is going to be very nice, get a little bit of extra damage there. Other than that though, 1 hit counts on her buster cards with, you know, pretty solid Noble Phantasm generation. It's just not really going to help her get her gauge filled that fast. And she only has 1 arts card, so she can't even chain for arts chains. It's going to be pretty difficult to get her Noble Phantasm generated. And then for her Noble Phantasm, it's going to do a ton of damage. It'll deal damage to 1 enemy as well as reducing their defense by 10 to 50% for 1 turn on the overcharge. So this is going to be a very powerful Noble Phantasm. This is where she'll deal the bulk of her damage if you can find a way to supply her Noble Phantasm gauge enough to get it increased to use her Noble Phantasm. But yeah, she is the only ruler in the global version that has a single target Noble Phantasm, so that is going to make it very beneficial for her if you do bring her into those fights. Shiro has an AoE Noble Phantasm, and Sherlock and Joan have like just buffs as a Noble Phantasm. They don't do damage. So if you do need a single target ruler, she's going to be very helpful for that, and it will dish out a ton of damage, and it does have 10 hits as well. So it's going to be very helpful. So now for her damage, I will give her 4 stars in damage. She's got a very powerful Noble Phantasm, and overall she can do some pretty good damage on offense, but she is limited in the fact that she has to use it against certain enemies or certain stages, so she does lose a point there, but 4 stars overall I think is pretty fair. And then for her critical ability, well, she really doesn't have any, so she has no skills to increase her crit damage, crit generation, crit absorption, any of that. She does have solid base stats, so that's why I didn't like take away points, but she just, you know, I just split it straight down the middle, 2.5 stars. For her Noble Phantasm, I'll give her 4 stars. It does a ton of damage, and as I said, she's the only ruler with a single target Noble Phantasm, so that is going to be very helpful if you do need a single target damage dealer. And she's got a pretty good overcharge effect, being able to reduce the defense of that enemy, so 4 stars. For her survivability, I'm going to give her 4 stars as well. She does have her second skill, which grants her debuff immunity and is also a heal. So that's going to be very helpful, and as I said, it's on a 5-turn charge time, so being able to heal 3,000 HP every 5 turns is going to be very helpful. So her being a ruler and then being able to heal that 3,000 HP and then take less damage when she's attacked means you're kind of healing more HP even though you're not. So it's going to be very helpful, and it'll keep her alive a lot longer, and then that debuff immunity is very helpful as well, since it doesn't go away until it's used. It'll just sit there, so yeah, she's pretty tanky for a damage dealer, so that's pretty cool. But she doesn't have any sort of evasion, defense, invincibility, anything like that. So she can go down fairly quickly if she's kind of focus fired. So she only does get the 4 stars there, but that's still pretty good. For her versatility though, I'm only going to give her 3 stars. As I've said multiple times, she needs to go against certain enemies on certain fields in order to maximize her potential. And then even outside of that, all of her skills are selfish and, you know, just target herself. She has no sort of support for her character whatsoever. So she really can't find her way into a lot of different teams because of that, and she does need a lot of support in order to help her, you know, with her Noble Phantasm increase and stuff like that. So 3 stars there. So overall, that will give her a 3.5 out of 5. She's not a bad character. She can do some pretty cool things. She can do some really good damage. But overall, she does fall short of being like a top tier character, I guess. You need to bring in a lot of support to help her shine, and she's very limited in where she can actually compete and do the most damage. But overall though, she's still a ruler, and there's not that many rulers, so if you do have her and you need her to fill that ruler role, she can do that. Overall, you know, she's not going to be doing a ton of crazy things, and she's a 4-star character as well, so we guess we really shouldn't have expected that. But yeah, guys, that's it. That's going to wrap up the character spotlight. I hope you did enjoy it after, I'm sure it wasn't worth the 2 years of waiting, but I hope you did enjoy it in the end. And if you did like the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. So feel free to check those out, and I will leave you guys here with Martha's Noble Phantasm, and I will see you next time. 愛を知らない悲しきここに星のように晴れつく
逃げ場はないわ。